back in the workshop here, we've got some projects that have been stacking up. One of them is, of course, prepping and getting our new Viking engine installed in the Super Duty. Part of that installation, or one of the larger parts, is installing this 2.5 gallon aluminum header tank that gets installed right behind the back baggage wall in the Zenith. Now, you can put it on either the left or the right side. They typically recommend the right side because if you're flying solo or single pilot on the left, to kind of balance things out, you're talking about 2.5 gallons. But in order to do that, we've got to do some things. We've got to take out some rivets on the angle here behind the baggage wall because we have to put in a support bracket that is going to be re-riveted against the angle inside of the fuselage. And then we're going to have these band clamps are going to suspend the header tank against the tube here, and then that header tank will then be supported by another bracket. So we've got a little bit of a project to do today. I'm going to show you some inside and outside of the fuselage, where we have to take out the rivets, where we're going to be re-riveting in the aluminum tube to support the header tank. If you're not familiar with the Zenith system, basically the way that works is your wing tanks gravity feed into the header tank, and we have 2 fuel line inputs here and 2 vent lines. We also have a fuel transducer for getting the fuel level of the header tank, which basically is going to be your main source for fuel because the wing tanks are dumping into the header tank. We've got 2 fuel pumps, basically redundant fuel pumps, and some vent lines and drain lines and things like that. So we are going to be working on getting these rivets drilled out, getting this tube cleaned up, and then getting that riveted in. Now, one of the things we do have to do before we rivet this to the wall, we've got to make sure that these band clamps are behind and in this notched area here. Otherwise, we will not get this piece through there and we'll be unriveting everything again. So one of the important things that if you are riveting this in, make sure you put your band clamp in behind before you start clecoing and riveting this to the sidewall. Now, if you are planning on putting a Viking engine in your Zenith aircraft, make sure you leave those rivets out until you get this piece, because you'll just be taking them back out to put them in. If you're doing a high wing Zenith, that is. We also did get our updated panel back from Aircraft Specialty. We made some changes to that. So we're doing some final fitting. That will then go back to Aircraft Specialty, where they will then powder coat and silk screen on the labeling. And then once we get that back, we'll be final installing all the instruments, starting the wiring and such for that. We did also pick up an engine hoist. Got it through Northern Tool and Supply. It was a pretty good deal. Picked it up locally, saved on the shipping. So that's going to be supporting our engine to get it onto the firewall. And we did get our new Viking engine mount back from our friends over at Mirror Image Powder Coating, where they primed and powder coated the engine mount back the way we wanted it, which was the bright white engine mount. So lots to get through today. We're going to get started, and appreciate you hanging in there while we were away for a little bit, but let's get back to it. All right, guys, now we've got the angle, the original angle, pulled out of the inside of the aircraft. We had to drill those rivets out. One clarification I wanted to make is that we do not leave this in. This gets replaced by the square tube which is beefier and going to support the header tank. So we don't put this over that on the inside. This gets removed. You can see from the factory, they had some of the core tech on there, the rust inhibitor, corrosion prevention on the inside. So we're going to go ahead and sand up, scuff up the inside of the holes, clean those up. We'll then get a mark down our center line here on the new post and get that put in place inside the fuselage. And then we'll get that drilled up, clecoed in, and then we'll remove it. We'll clean up all the holes, probably prime this. And then we've got to remember, again, we've got to put those band clamps on first. Otherwise, it will be impossible to get these buckles through the hole. So it's not even a possibility, so to speak. So we have to get the band clamps on first, re-cleco it in, rivet it, and then this is ready for the header tank inside the fuselage. All right, guys, there's a couple of different ways that we can actually drill out our aluminum tube. One of them would be to just simply put it up inside the fuselage, drill one hole, cleco it, drill the bottom hole, cleco it, and then kind of go down the route. But I decided to just use the angle that was in there, and it's the exact same dimensions. Hold it real tight against the square tube. It's a 3/4 inch tube, and then just back drill it and cleco it. So basically all I'm doing is I'm using the angle as a guide, and then we're getting a hole drilled in there, and then we're going to cleco that. And we'll do that as we go down, keeping it nice and straight. And then we'll be able to take this off, clean up the holes, and basically our rivet spacing will be completely correct for the fuselage. We can then just prime and re-cleco. So that's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to get it done right now. So again, just skipping down a little bit, keeping it tight. We'll do just a little bit of last minute cleanup of the holes here, and we'll get this primed and installed into the fuselage. All right, holes are drilled. Got the band clamp spots cleaned up. We'll do our best to deburr inside as best we can, but it's gonna be a little hard to get all the way down in there. Then we'll prime this up. We'll clean up the inside of the fuselage where this is going to mate up to. Probably prime that whole line. And then we'll install this with the band clamps. Don't forget the band clamps. And then we will get it riveted in. Project complete. For those of you who are wondering what we use on these small parts, we use the Rust-Oleum self-etching primer. Works great. It's fairly inexpensive. You can buy it in bulk at your local hardware store. You can probably order it online as well. But it makes quick work of these small little parts, pieces that we got to put inside. Dries pretty quick. And at least we know we're putting some coating back onto the pieces here. And again, primarily I only really worried about that, the one with the holes in it, but you know why we got it here. We'll spray it up. We'll let that sit up, maybe hit it one more time, and then she'll be good to go. Well, guys, there's definitely a reason they call this the hellhole, especially if you're a bigger guy. But we got the beam, the piece in here. We're just going to finish riveting that up, and she'll be good to go. All right, guys, well, it was a little bit of finagling, but we got the tube, the aluminum tube inside of the fuselage. Had to do a little trimming at the top. Got the holes lined up. I've got it clecoed right now to get it nice and tight, make sure everything's lined up. Got the clamps installed behind where they're supposed to be. Got the bolts headed the right direction in the back so I can access them. Next step is really just to rivet these up. We enlarged them from A4s to A5s, and we're going to get to riveting that. I'm not going to bore you with riveting. You've seen plenty of that. But I do have something here that just got delivered Let's go take a look. All right, guys, got a package here from our friends at Acme Aero. And if you're familiar with Acme Aero, they build some awesome Stoll suspension components. So let's see what we've got here in the box. Oh my